Alright, let's talk about Reddit, the earnings, and where the company is heading. Hey, I'm Andreas, I've been investing for over 10 years. Let's talk a bit about Reddit stock on the back of the earnings call, go over what I thought was the most important aspects that Mr. Huffman and the management team brought up, as well as some of the questions from analysts and the poor way in which it was handled, quite frankly. But the numbers first. So the first quarter is usually not a super strong quarter for advertisers. Seasonally, Q4 is a very strong quarter. We see that a lot of companies spend big on ads in the holidays. This is true for Meta, for Google, and indeed also true for Reddit. For example, if I click on December 2024 earnings, this is the fourth quarter, we can see that revenue was 427 million American dollars and result per share was 0.36 cents. So the first quarter here performing extremely well. On the back of that, we can see 392 million, up 61% comparing the same quarter year on year. This was a beat in terms of expectations from Wall Street. And we also see that profitability here, the results per share, was 13 cents. And there's not a lot of accounting shenanigans going on in the earnings per share. This is a software company. They don't have big buildings, big assets to write down that they need to do. So this is showing good numbers. They are reflective of the business indeed. And we can see that this was a massive strength. And stock price just shot up here after these earnings. Stock price was, about 140, something like this, very high. Earnings was on the 1st of May. Just traded straight up. And then as the CEO, in this case, started talking, well, share price dropped. But before we get to that, let's talk about some of the massive highlights here that I think are underestimated and that perhaps not a lot of people that just look at the stock from a glance, that are doing their due diligence, starting doing it, are realizing. One, Reddit Pro trends. This is not only for advertisers. This is something just like Thomson Reuters, for example, where financial institutions can see dimensions of tickers, you can see certain consumer trends. Yes, indeed, this is valuable for advertisers. What are consumers talking about? Get insights with regards to this. But it's also important with regards to business. For example, if you're a financial institution trying to keep track of the latest meme stocks and what's going on with retail investors, are they planning to make a short squeeze somewhere, or big movements happening? Well, you can subscribe to a pro plan and you can keep a track on consumer sentiment this way. So this is one aspect of the business as well that could be overlooked in an analysis, because a lot of the focus is on ads and a lot of talk is with regards to ads. So this can be swept under the rug. We also have data licensing, for example, to build LLMs. Now, of course, they're building their own LLM as well with Reddit Answers. And they're trying to work on Reddit search as well in this case. All good stuff. Mentioning that the growth in revenue was impression driven. This means that more people are seeing a larger amount of ads in total. So if it's impression driven, just make it real easy with an example. Let's say that the last quarter, same quarter last year, they served 100 million ads and now they serve 120 million ads. Just an example. Well, 20 million impressions more. Growth is impression driven. In this case, we had a double whammy. So we had an increase in the total amount of impressions, and we also had an increase in the price of these impressions. And this could be for a number of reasons. It could be for more advertisers being onboarded. It could be that they are seeing results that they are wanting, so they are bidding higher on the ads to be shown to people. We don't really know, and they didn't really go into detail on it on the earnings call. I plan to set up an account here on Reddit ads to try it out for myself, try out the pixel, and just see what type of quality I can get in this regard. So subscribe for that. More research to come with regards to the advertising side of Reddit. Although they do not seem to be quite mature yet. For example, in the Q&A section, they were asked about a meta campaign importer that they promised last quarter. How is that product development? And the question was basically dodged. So now we're sliding into the bad part about the earnings call. For example, Mr. Huffman, the CEO, was asked about user growth. Very important questions. Meta gets this question all the time. Social networks. Investors have a focus on this because this is going to drive those impressions in the future. And we saw a change in the Google search algorithm that led fewer people to Reddit, and as a result we saw less user growth, and this is worrying. The CEO said that long term he's not worried, but short term it can be bumpy. So quite a blunt, quite an honest answer, and I don't think that the market received that very well. That's an uncertainty. We've seen the news media focus on it, saying watch this number, user growth, on the earnings call. So there's been a spotlight on it, and when the answer was not one that the market was looking for, well, then share price drops. And on the announcement in pre-market, it went from double digit up to just 4% up after the comments in the earnings call. So investors who are largely invested can't be too happy about that, but I think this is a non-issue. This is just short-term noise. If we zoom out and look a bit at how the stock has performed since its IPO, we can see that performance has been extremely strong. I said when the stock was, I think, 60 something, that this is a stock that I would be buying at higher prices. And yes, indeed, I bought a bit when it was under 100 here as of late, because I had some extra capital that I could deploy. And in this case, I think that I will still continue to buy at these prices, because Reddit, it's not a big company here, 21 billion, quite small. It's peanuts compared to other companies in similar space. If you look at the giants, they're growing rapidly, they are profitable, and if we look at what's going to drive growth, well, there's still ad inventory to be developed. For example, they talked about the ad that they have in the comment section, more high intent. People look to the comment section for answers. Very good idea. They could also do something similar to what Google search is doing, where they have the shopping ads when you search for a product. If you search for a product in Reddit search, well, then you could show a shopping ad. Not there at the moment, but one of the big problems is that, alright, for example, when I found Reddit, I found it via doing a Google search, and I started seeing these Reddit links that would answer the queries. I clicked on them, I looked at them, and after a while I wanted to make a comment myself, so I had to sign up and make an account, and now I check it from time to time. But if this Google search algorithm changes and stops showing as many Reddit links, well, then fewer users are going to find it like this, and then how are they going to get them into the app, into the platform, so that they search on Reddit for information? Then they're not going to get that business, they're not going to develop it even. So it's quite long term, and I think that the market is doing the correct thing by focusing on user growth. That's the most important part in this stage of Reddit's development. All of these ad units, I think they're doing a fantastic job. They've gone from being one of the platforms that monetizes its users the worst, with LinkedIn being number one, to actually doing a good job of it now. And I see plenty of development opportunities just to catch up with the giants in this industry. We also see that they are doing some communication, taking retail investors' questions. For example, for the executive here on the left, she was asked about perhaps growing more in India and doing this machine translation to Hindi, and why they're not focusing on that. And we get very politically correct answers, I think, with regards to global expansion. I think that the main reason that they are focusing on America is because advertisers pay a lot of money for American eyeballs. They consume more, they buy more, they are just fantastic consumers. And advertisers are willing to pay because American consumers are willing to spend. They could develop, for example, the Swedish market, but you know, just like India, we don't have the spending power that the Americans have, and it's only natural. So some good focus there. But you know, Huffman here, I think he's over explaining a lot. I think he's giving out too much information in ways that are not necessarily very beneficial for Reddit and Reddit shareholders in this case. Managing to talk down the stock after amazing earnings, that's, you know, a feat. Good job. I should give him a Reddit award perhaps, you know, for managing to talk down stock price that well. Usually we see CEOs being figureheads, you know, for example Elon Musk, think what you want about him, but he's really able to talk up Tesla share price. And for example, we see Carp for Palantir doing an amazing job being a representative, a figurehead, rallying the troops, and just talking up stock price with the way he speaks. And Huffman has a long way to go here. He don't have the charisma there yet, and that's quite obvious in this case. We also see the Reddit investor relations website not doing too well right now. I wanted to bring up some financials, some presentations here, like I usually do when I look at some of the earnings call, but some issues here with the investor relations website. As you clearly can see, it refuses to load when I press the financial button. So no presentation in this case, just going slow. That was it with regards to the Reddit earnings. We saw impression driven growth. That's one highlight, very, very important. We saw stagnation in user growth. That's a bit of a red flag, and it was not handled very well. Those were the two highlights, in my opinion, from the Reddit earnings call. And if you saw something else, something very important in one of these AMAs, if you watch them or if you watch the earnings call yourself, let me and other investors know in the comment section below. And as always, hope you guys make a ton of money, whatever investments you decide to make. Take care now. Bye bye.